My name is Adrian Cole. I'm 32 years old. And if there's one thing I've learned the hard way, it's this. Money doesn't protect you from family. It doesn't matter how much you make, how far you climb, or how many people respect you out there in the world. If your own family has already decided who you are, they'll hold on to that version of you like it's the truth carved in stone. For me, that version was simple. I was the failure, the disappointment, the son who threw his life away. It started when I was 18. That was the year I walked away from college. Not because I was lazy, not because I couldn't handle it, but because I saw something else, something bigger. While everyone else was sitting in lecture halls, memorizing theories and chasing degrees, I was building something real, something that actually made money. My first business was small, a niche e-commerce store I ran from my bedroom. At the time, it didn't look like much, just a laptop, late nights, and a lot of trial and error. But I believed in it. That was enough for me. It wasn't enough for my parents. I still remember the night I told them. My mom was standing in the kitchen, stirring her coffee slowly, like she always did when she was trying to process something she didn't like. "You're dropping out?" she asked, her voice calm but sharp underneath. "Yes," I said. "I want to focus on my business full time." She let out a small laugh, not amused, dismissive. "Adrian, that's not a plan, that's a mistake." My dad didn't even look up from the newspaper. "You'll regret it," he muttered. That was it. No questions, no curiosity, just judgment. "Yeah," I'd reply calmly. He'd shake his head like I'd just confirmed his worst fears. Across the table, my sister Lily would smile that polished, perfect smile of hers. "You know," she'd say sweetly, "it's not too late to go back to school." Lily was everything they wanted me to be. Successful, in their world. She was a corporate lawyer, big firm, big clients, big reputation. Her life looked perfect on paper. Luxury handbags, designer clothes, the kind of curated success people love to show off. My parents adored her, talked about her constantly, bragged about her to anyone who would listen. "She's doing so well. We're so proud of her." And then, inevitably, someone would ask about me. There would be a pause, a slight shift in tone. "Oh, Adrian is figuring things out." Figuring things out. That was their polite way of saying, he's going nowhere. For years, I let it go. I didn't correct them, didn't defend myself, didn't prove anything. Because honestly, I didn't need their validation. I had something better, results. But even then, there's something about family. You tell yourself it doesn't matter, that their opinion doesn't define you. And most of the time, that's true. But every now and then, a comment lands just a little deeper than it should. A look lingers just a little longer, and you feel it. Not enough to break you, but enough to remind you, they still don't see you. By the time I turned 32, nothing had changed. Not on their side. In their eyes, I was still the same 18-year-old who made a dumb decision. Still the son who didn't live up to his potential. Still the embarrassment they tolerated rather than celebrated. And maybe that's why what happened next didn't shock me as much as it should have. It was a Thursday evening. Rain was coming down hard, tapping against my windshield as I pulled into their driveway. My mom had texted earlier that day, "Can you come by? We need to talk." That alone was unusual. We weren't the kind of family that talked. We coexisted, judged, occasionally criticized, but talked? No. Still, I went. Part of me thought maybe, just maybe, this would be different. Maybe they finally wanted to understand. Maybe they were ready to see me for who I really was. I should have known better. When I walked in, the atmosphere felt off, heavy. My dad was pacing in the living room. My mom stood near the fireplace, arms crossed. And Lily? She was sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, watching me like she already knew how this was going to play out. That's when I realized this wasn't a conversation. It was an intervention. "Adrian," my dad started, stopping mid-step. "We've been talking." That phrase again, always a bad sign. "You're 32 years old," he continued, "and it's clear this online thing isn't going anywhere." I felt my jaw tighten slightly. "Here we go." "You've had enough time to figure your life out," he said, his voice rising, "but you're still wasting your potential." I looked at him carefully. "What exactly are you saying?" He didn't hesitate. "We're done enabling you." For a second, I genuinely thought I misheard him. "Enabling me?" I repeated. "I've never asked you for anything." Lily let out a short laugh from the couch. "Oh, come on, Adrian," she said, swirling her wine. "Do you really think anyone believes you're making a living off your little business?" Little business. I stayed quiet. My mom stepped in, her tone sharp and final. We've decided it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. I almost smiled. Stand on my own 2 feet? I had been doing that for over a decade. No more coming here when you need help, she added. No more expecting us to bail you out. That's when it hit me. They weren't just misunderstanding me. They had created an entire version of reality, where I depended on them, where I needed them, where I was failing, and they were the only thing keeping me afloat. And they believed it completely. My dad pointed toward the door. If you're doing so well, he said, then prove it. His voice hardened. Go, live your life without us. There was a pause. Then he added, even if that means the streets. Silence filled the room. Rain pounded against the windows. Lily took a slow sip of her wine, watching me like this was entertainment. They were waiting for me to react, to argue, to break, to admit they were right. Instead, I reached for my jacket, put it on calmly, and looked at them one last time. All right, I said quietly, if that's what you want. For a split second, I saw something flicker in my mom's expression. Surprise, maybe even doubt, but it disappeared just as quickly. I turned, walked to the door, and stepped out into the rain. As I got into my car, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror, and something unexpected happened. I didn't feel angry, I didn't feel hurt, I felt amused. Because for the first time, everything was clear. They hadn't rejected me because I failed. They rejected me because they needed me to. And 3 weeks from that night, they were going to find out just how wrong they were. The rain didn't stop that night. It followed me the entire drive home, streaking across the windshield in long, restless lines, like the sky itself had something to say but couldn't quite form the words. I drove in silence. No music, no calls, no distractions. Just the steady hum of the engine and the echo of my father's voice replaying in my head. Even if that means the streets. I almost laughed again thinking about it. The irony was almost too perfect. They had just thrown out the one person in that house who could have bought it outright, furniture included, without even checking his primary accounts. But that wasn't the point. Not anymore. By the time I reached my building, the rain had softened into a light drizzle. The city lights reflected off the wet pavement, stretching into long golden streaks as I pulled into the underground garage. I parked, turned off the engine, and just sat there for a moment. Not because I didn't want to go upstairs, but because I was thinking, not about what they said, not even about how wrong they were, but about what came next. My penthouse was exactly how I left it. Clean, quiet, still. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, glowing under the night sky. The kind of view people post online to prove they've made it. For me, it was just normal. I dropped my keys on the counter, took off my jacket, and walked straight to the window. From up here, everything looked small. Cars like moving dots, people invisible, problems distant. And yet somehow, what had just happened felt bigger than anything I'd dealt with in years. Not because it hurt, but because it clarified something I'd been ignoring for a long time. This wasn't temporary. This wasn't misunderstanding. This was who they were. And more importantly, this was who they thought I was. The first week passed without a word from them. No calls, no texts, nothing. It was almost impressive. You'd think after throwing your own son out, telling him to go figure life out, maybe even hinting he might end up on the streets, you'd at least check if he survived the week. But not them. To them, the story was already written. I was struggling, failing, learning my lesson, and in their minds, that was exactly what I deserved. I didn't reach out either. There was no reason to. If anything, the silence was useful. It gave me space to observe, to think, to plan. Because one thing was becoming very clear. They weren't just wrong about me. They were confident in being wrong. And confidence like that? It doesn't come from facts. It comes from narrative. That narrative started spreading faster than I expected. It began subtly. A message here, a comment there. Then it became undeniable. About 10 days after that night, my phone buzzed while I was in my office. It was a text from my cousin, Jake, one of the few people in the family who never treated me like I was beneath them. Jake, hey man, random question, you okay? It was easy to connect the dots, even if the picture was completely wrong. That night, I didn't feel angry. I didn't feel the need to defend myself. If anything, I felt something colder, more controlled. Because now I understood the game. And once you understand the game, you stop reacting and you start deciding how it ends. The second week, the rumors grew louder. Not directly to me, but around me. I could feel it in conversations, subtle shifts in tone when certain people spoke. Questions that were just slightly too careful. Hey, everything going okay lately? You've been a bit off the radar. I handled it the same way every time. Calm, neutral, unbothered. Yeah, just busy. Which wasn't even a lie. If anything, I had more clarity than ever. Because while they were busy telling my story, I was preparing to rewrite theirs. One evening about 2.5 weeks in, I found myself driving again. Not home, not to work, but back to my parents' neighborhood. I didn't plan it, didn't schedule it. It just happened. The streets were familiar, unchanged, same houses, same quiet sidewalks, same sense of stillness that used to feel normal growing up. I parked a few houses down from theirs, far enough not to be obvious, close enough to see, and then I just sat there, watching. Through the dining room window I could see them. My dad at the head of the table, my mom beside him. Lily across, glass of wine in hand, smiling like always. Everything looked perfect. Like one of those picture-perfect family moments people pretend are real. Laughter, movement, comfort, and I knew exactly what was happening inside that room. The conversations, the tone, the occasional mention of my name, followed by disappointment, judgment, maybe even pity. And that's when something clicked. Not emotionally, logically. They weren't just talking about me. They needed to talk about me. Because I served a purpose. I was the comparison, the example, the what not to do. As long as I existed in that role, they stayed comfortable, superior, right. I sat there for a long time, long enough for the lights to dim slightly, long enough for the laughter to fade into quiet conversation. And when I finally started the engine again, I wasn't upset, I wasn't angry, I was focused. Because now I knew exactly what I was dealing with. 2 days later, my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Mom. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Hello? Her voice came through light, almost cheerful. Adrian, darling. Darling. She only used that tone when she wanted something. We need a small favor this weekend, she continued. Your father wants to move some old furniture. I leaned back in my chair. Of course. Since you've got plenty of time, she added casually, you should be able to help. Plenty of time. Because in her mind, I had nothing else going on. I smiled slightly. Sorry, I'm busy. There was a pause. A small one. Then a soft sigh. Busy with what? I kept my voice even. Work. A light chuckle came through the phone. Not amused, dismissive. Of course, your business. There it was again. That tone, that certainty. Well, she said, try to make time for family, okay? Another pause, then, you might need us someday. I almost laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, but because it was so perfectly wrong. They still thought they were my safety net, my fallback, my last resort. They had no idea. They hadn't been relevant to my survival in over a decade. Yeah, I said calmly, I'll keep that in mind. We hung up shortly after. No tension, no argument. Just the same quiet misunderstanding that had always been there. But this time, because before I tolerated it. Now I was watching it, analyzing it, letting it build. Because the more they talked, the more they assumed, the more they committed to this version of reality. The harder it was going to hit when it finally broke. And I already knew that moment was coming. Soon. Very soon. And just when everything was about to be revealed, it stopped. But trust me, this is only the beginning. Don't miss part 2. That's where everything changes.